Hello everyone, I'm Paul and today we are solving problem 2977, minimum cost to convert string to. This is definitely a hard problem, so here we will go step by step. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I highly recommend you to go and watch that video first. It's in my channel. This is very similar to part 1. You can read this if you want, but basically we are given a source and we need to return the minimum cost to transform this into the given target. For this we have these three variables: original, change, and cost. The main difference with part 1 is that here we can have strings instead of characters, and this makes things harder. So for this example, we can replace these three characters BCD with the corresponding string in the same index in this array changed. So we replace this. The cost of doing this is 1, so we add 1 to the result, and this is the current string. Next, we can replace FGH, meaning these three characters, with the corresponding string THH. The cost of doing this is 3, so we add 3 to the result. And finally, we can replace THH with GHH with the cost of 5. So this is now GHH, and we need to add 5 to the result. Now this string is equal to the target, so finally we return 5 plus 3 plus 1, meaning 9. This is the minimum possible cost to transform the source into the target. The main observation for this problem is here, so I recommend you to read this carefully. But basically here it says that if we decide to change a substring, let's say that we change this, then in the next change we can decide to either change a substring with the exact same indices or totally different indices. For example, if this is change number 1, then for the next change we can't change these three characters because we have already changed this character in this change, so this is not possible. But we can change these same three characters again. That's basically what it says here. This means that we can iterate characters from left to right from index 0. So if we start from here, we basically have two choices. Given that A is equal to A, the character in the source is equal to the character in the target, we can decide to move to the next index, to I plus 1. Now we have another choice, which is to move to I plus the length of a selected change. Here we have possible changes. So maybe we can use any of these with this index. In this case we can't because none of this starts with A, so we can only move to the next index. But here you can see our choices. Now we are here, and given that these two characters are different, we can't move to the next index. But maybe we can use a change and move to I plus the length of the selected change. If we look here, we have BCD, and we can change this with CDA. So we are selecting these three characters and checking if we can reach these three characters. We are going from BCD to CDE, and the cost of this is 1. Here we have a directed graph, and this means that we can find the shortest path with Dijkstra. And once again, if you don't know how this works, I highly recommend you to go and watch part 1 because there I explain how this works in detail. So after running Dijkstra with this source and this destination, we get a result of 1. And now the I pointer is at I plus the length of the selected change. We were at index 1 and now we are at 1 plus 3, meaning 4. And just in case you didn't notice, here we have a decision tree and we are running a dynamic programming approach with Dijkstra. So let's continue. Now we are at this level, meaning the I pointer is here, and we basically have two choices again. We can move to I plus 1 because the character in the source is equal to the character in the target. Here we move to I plus 1, or we can select some change and move to I plus the length of the change. Here we don't have any available change starting with E, so let's say that we move to the next index. Now the I pointer is here, and we basically have, well, we can't move to the next index because F is different from G, but we can try changes. Here we could move to I plus the length of the selected change. And in case you didn't notice, let's see how can we try changes. The amount of changes will be given by the amount of lengths of strings in these arrays. Here every string has a length of 3, so we only have to try one change, meaning we can try substrings of size 3. So we take a substring of size 3 from the current index, and we need to reach to a substring of size 3 from the current index in the target. So we need to go from F, G, H to G, H, H. This is the source, this is the destination. And for this, we build an adjacency list and have Dijkstra. First, we need to go from FGH to the neighbors, meaning THH in this case. Here we have an edge with a weight of 3, so this is a directed graph. Here the weight is 3, and then we can go from THH to GHH with a cost of 5. So here we run Dijkstra to compute the minimum cost to go from FGH to GHH, and the result will be 5 plus 3, meaning 8. So the result for this scenario is 8. And here we need to move the I pointer to the current position plus the length of the current string. So now the I pointer is here out of bounds. And this is our base case. This is like a post-ordered traversal DFS. We are going from the ellipse to the root. So once we are out of bounds, we just return 0. So this scenario, on the way up, we return 8 plus 0, meaning 8. From this scenario, the result is positive infinity. Why? Well, remember that here we were standing at this index, and we were looking for changes of size 3, meaning we took this substring. And as you can see, we don't have any available change. We don't have any string starting with E. And this means, remember that in Dijkstra we have an array where every value is initially positive infinity except for the source. So if after running Dijkstra with this source and this destination we get positive infinity, this means that we can't use any change, so we return infinity. Now we are here, and remember that here we were standing at index 1. We were looking at these 3 indices. Here the result of Dijkstra was 1, so we are keeping with the minimum value between 8 plus 1, meaning 9, and positive infinity. So here we keep 9. This scenario is positive infinity, so the minimum between infinity and 9 is 9. Here we just return 9. So finally, given that the result is different from infinity, we return 9. If this was infinity, we will return -1 instead, because this would mean that we can't go from the source to the target. So this is a big overview of our algorithm. Now, with this in mind, let's go with the code. First, we need to build an adjacency list. This is a default dictionary with a default value of an empty array. And now we can fill this. So for every start, end, and wait in zip, original, changed, and cost. Sorry, this is changed. Here we can say adjacency at s.append a tuple with the current weight and the endpoint. So now we have our adjacency list, and we can continue with our function for Dijkstra. This will take a start point or a source and a target. And remember that in every Dijkstra we need a distances array or map. In this case we are using a map. This is a default dictionary with a default value of infinity for every key. And maybe you are wondering, why are we using a map? Well, remember that we are working with strings, so we can't use array indices for strings. That's why we need a map. Here we need to set d at s to 0, meaning the distance from the source to the source is 0. And we have a heap, which includes a tuple with the initial weight 0 and the starting point. And just to be clear, here in every tuple we have a weight and a node. So now we can say, while we have something in the heap, we pop the first element, and this will give us a weight and a node. So here we use heap q, heap pop from heap, and now we can iterate every neighbor. For the new weight and neighbor in adjacency at the current node, we can check if the accumulated weight plus the new weight is smaller than what we have in distances at the neighbor, or we can update this with w plus nw, and we can heap push into our heap a tuple with w plus nw and the neighbor. Finally, we can return distances at the target. So this will return either a number if we have a valid path, or infinity if we can't reach the target. And to make it slightly more efficient, we can cache this. So now we can continue with the next part. Now remember how we tried changes. First, we need to compute every possible length in the array original. So we will call this lengths, and this is a set where we take the length of every word for word in original. And that's why we use a set, because we can have repeated lengths. So now we want to transform this into a sorted array, and you will see why in a few seconds. Now we can build our dp function. This takes an index starting from 0, and our base case is if we are out of bounds, meaning if I is the length of source, we can just return 0. And just to be clear, this is the base case. And now we're checking if the character in source is equal to the character in target. We can say that the result up to this moment is dp at I plus 1. So in this scenario, we try the next character and the available lengths. That's why we have this array here. So else, meaning if these two characters are not equal, we can say that the result up to this moment is just infinity. Here we try lengths only. Now regarding the lengths part, we can say for every length in lengths, if the current index plus the current length is greater than the length of source, this means that we are out of bounds and we can break this loop. And this is why we are sorting this up here, because if the current index plus this length is greater than the length of source, well, given that this is sorted, of course that the next length plus the current index will also be greater than the length of the source. So we rather break this loop here. Now if we are still here, we can take a substring for the source. This is source from the current I pointer to I plus length, and we can take a substring for target. Here we go from I to I plus length also. And now we can check if not s in adjacency list, we can just continue because we don't have the starting point in the adjacency list. So there's no reason to run Dijkstra here. Now, if we do have the source in the adjacency list, we can say that best is the minimum between what we have in best and Dijkstra with source and target plus the next level, dp at I plus the length of the current change. Finally, we can return best. So with this function, we can say that the result is dp from index 0, and we can return the result if the result is different from infinity. And if it's infinity, this means that it's impossible to transform the source into the target, so we just return -1. So this is the entire code. Now let's submit this and see if it works. Here I'm missing a very important part, which is we need to cache our dp function. So now let's try again. As you can see, this works and it's very efficient. Here time complexity will be big O of the amount of elements in these three arrays plus the length of source and target times the amount of lengths times the time complexity for Dijkstra, which is the amount of edges log the amount of vertices, and space complexity will be roughly big O of the amount of edges plus vertices. We need to cache this and it requires n, and we need to cache this, which requires every combination of source and target. So this is it for this problem. If you found this useful, please drop a like, subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.